A baby is not born hating themselves. Self-hate is a coping mechanism and strategy designed to keep you safe in childhood in a dysfunctional family home where each member's core concept is based on shame. Your being will never do anything that is against you, but only for you, for the sake of social survival. So how is it then that self-hate, or creating an internal antagonist, is the best way to keep you and the other people in your family safe? Self-hate manifests in a variety of different ways: suicidality, self-harm, not taking care of yourself properly, being in abusive or toxic relationships, and any kind of behavior that puts you at risk. As a child, you are born as the unrealized potential of both of your parents. So what happens then if your parent has a core concept of shame and you come in as the unrealized or shadow or unconscious aspects of a person, and that is what you're reflecting to them, but they're not willing to own their shame? What happens is that shame gets deflected onto you. When you exhibit anything that is different from your parent, it will entice or incite a feeling of shame. And if that parent is unconscious, they are going to push you away. And what do you do when you're pushed away? But you need connection and you need to socially survive, and you can't split your physical body, you split your consciousness. Which means you split into the parts of you that are not getting you love, and the part of you that is making sure that that part does not surface. In that moment, you become your own internal antagonist. This self-hate as a coping mechanism works in two different ways. The first one is you either become your own internal antagonist, turn against yourself in that moment, and thus validate the parent's reality, or you become the person that the parent gets to come in and rescue to fix. Either way, the parent does not have to face their shame in this situation. You become the scapegoat. The scapegoat in the family is the child who was not able to change a quality about themselves, so they had to fracture off from that instead. The only way to do that is to condemn that aspect of yourself. So, in that same moment, the part of you is born that is the condemner. When you turn against yourself in that moment, the abuse becomes predictable and controllable, and it also keeps you safe because if you're doing it, that means that they're probably less likely to do it because you've gotten to the problem before they have, even though it's not really a problem at all. Basically, you had needs, and the only way to get those needs met were to hate the aspects of yourself that caused you to not get whatever you needed enough that they went away. So here's an example of that. If I'm somebody who talks a lot, but every time I start talking a lot, mom says, I just can't handle this. I can't be around this. I'm already stressed out as it is. And my need is for people to spend a lot of time with me. What am I going to do? I'm going to fragment off from the part of me that talks a lot so that I can get people to spend time with me. So first of all, when we're dealing with parts of ourselves that we hate, if not the whole part of ourselves, we have to look at, by pushing that thing away, what do I gain? Whatever you gain by pushing that part away, we need to be going for that thing directly. Basically, the parts of yourself that you hate and the need that's being met by pushing them away should be the focus. So whatever need is being filled is the one that we need to focus on. And we need to focus on getting that need met, not only within ourselves, but with other people too. It's my opinion that children come in as not only the shadows or subconscious aspects of the parents, but also the unrealized potential. So if the universe has been trying to get your parents to become aware of something, and the universe is trying to become more aware, that's where we're heading, that's what we want, then what do you think the best course of action for getting that awareness is? Bringing in a child that can't so easily be exiled, the same way that maybe an acquaintance or friend could be. It's a lot harder to discount something when you have to live with it 24 hours a day. What happened was that your parent turned against you, so you had to turn against yourself. But it can become a gaslight, because if you're being told, I love you, but the energy and the action doesn't line up with that, then it's going to be really confusing. And not only do you turn against yourself in that moment, but you start to develop a really warped sense of what love is, which we then later on plaster over our relationships, thinking that this is what love is. Chances are, if you suffer with self-hate to an extreme degree, you are probably the family scapegoat. The scapegoat in the family becomes the holder of all of the shame. So this is also called the identified patient. And therapists will often see the identified patient before they'll see any other member of the family. And that's because the family gets to have this feeling, or the parents get to have the feeling like, look at this child, like, aren't I so good for bringing this kid in? She's really fucked up. When in reality, the parent was the one that turned against you to begin with, which is what caused you to turn against yourself. Simply by existing, you're invalidating that parent's reality. You are seen as a threat. So some examples of things that you may have potentially been rejected for could include being intelligent or smarter than your parents, talking too much, being hyper, having too much energy, being sensitive or overly sensitive. You can see how any of these things would cause a parent to have to look at themselves in a way, and if they're unconscious, it's going to trigger shame, and if they're unwilling to deal with that shame is going to get deflected. To bring this example up to speed in your current life, just look at the way that you look at certain people on social media who have maybe really amazing lives or seem to have really amazing lives. Notice how that triggers something in you. Sometimes when we see those things, we're like, oh man, I'm not good enough. Like, I should be doing that. I should have those things. If I were better, maybe I would do that too. It's the incongruence between you and them that causes the shame. When you hate yourself, you're no longer a threat because I get to fix you and you validate the reality that I already have. It's so important that if you struggle with self-hate, you go directly for whatever need is being met by pushing those parts of yourselves away. You're going to have to re-own and accept those aspects that you've rejected because someone else rejected. And you're going to have to start going for who you are instead of who you had to become in order to get love. You'll have to see that the love that you received was conditional, and I would argue not love at all. So, would you rather hate yourself into being someone that somebody could love, or accept those parts of yourself and find people who can love you for you? Some questions that I want you to ask yourself if you struggle with self-hate are, what parts of myself do I hate? What do I subconsciously fear will happen to me if I loved these parts of myself? Who benefits from me rejecting myself? I.e., what am I trying to get or achieve by pushing these aspects of me away? What need am I meeting? Is it belonging, people wanting to spend time with me, acceptance, love? How can I see that the benefits or what I get is totally predicated on a lie? The lie is that you love part of me and that this is the part that's acceptable for you, but you're not loving me for the whole me. What do I gain by loving these parts of myself and accepting them? And who do I lose? Honestly, answer these questions, because the answers to these questions are going to get you a lot closer to being able to bring those parts of yourself back, love, and accept them the way that they should have been from the very beginning. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't be a dirty little bitch. I can say that right. There's not kids watching this, I'm sure. Also, I am pitting out because it is hot as Lucifer's B-Sackarooski. I have to close the windows so that you guys can get crisp audio. You're loved. Just because somebody rejected that part of yourself does not mean it was worth rejecting. No, no, no. What that means is that somebody else had some shame. They couldn't own that shame. You don't have to take that shame for them. That's not you. Now it's your job to bring those parts back to yourself and give them the love that they deserve, and also find people who can do the same.